Thank you. As you can see, this is the fourth year of the UK Environmental Film Fellowships, which are organised by the British High Commission and the British Council together. And this year, the themes have been around climate security and around case studies of individual and community action on to mitigate climate change. I'm very pleased, in order to announce the winners, to invite two people to join me on the stage. One is Fergus Auld, the First Secretary Climate Change with the British High Commission and DFID team, and the other is Harriet Nimmo, Chief Executive of Wild Screen from the UK. And we'll have to pass the mic around, but we're starting with you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As a diplomat, my trade tends to be more in language and text and words, so I'm fascinated and delighted to be surrounded by people whose trade is more around pictures and images as well as in language. I was also honoured to be part of a panel choosing the climate security films for this year's UK Environmental Film Fellowships, with a very distinguished academic, Purnamita Dasgupta, and with a legendary filmmaker in Mike Pandy. What we all share, and Harriet and Les are the same, is that we deal in communication with different audiences through different media, but in communication nonetheless. My medium, as I said, tends to be in words. There are lots of words about climate change. The scientific data is ever clearer about the scale and urgency of the challenge we face. Since Dr. Pachauri's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Assessment Report in 2007, the evidence has continued to come in thick and fast that we have less time to address the climate challenges than we thought, that impacts are being felt sooner, that tipping points are likely to be arrived at faster. The economic impacts are also clearer in terms of the words and the numbers. The costs of inaction are far greater than the costs of action. And the current global economic crisis illuminates the danger of not factoring risk into planning, as well as demonstrating the need for sustainability, as well as short-term profit to be built into the system. And as a diplomat who, for the past few years, has been involved in the global climate negotiations under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, I'm afraid to say that we are all too guilty of using far too many words and our actions rarely measuring up to them. With Copenhagen 10 months away at the big UN climate conference there, we still have a long way to go. And that's deeply worrying, for there's no greater challenge facing humanity than climate insecurity. I'm sure that some of you, like me, watched President Obama's inauguration speech. What struck me most about the speech was the use of words, the use of elemental imagery in his language. Very simple, very powerful metaphors describing winds and waves and earth. And a discussion of climate can provide the same simple elemental words, but that describe devastating natural or human events: drought, flood, forced migration, conflict, hunger, disease. We recognise the urgent need to communicate these words in images so that they resonate at an emotional as well as at an intellectual level, and that they deal with human beings and the effects on human beings, as well as those on animals and polar bears, as we seem to have focused on rather too much in the UK at least. So this was really why the British High Commission and the British Council chose climate security as one of the two themes for this year's films, to highlight some of those dangers to human security. This was really well grasped by all of the finalists on the climate security films that I had the pleasure to interview. As a panel, we could only pick two winners, but with all of the finalists, we were very impressed by the way in which they could describe, not just in words, the subject of their film, and that threat posed to human security by climate change, but also to convey that very simply through the narrative and through the imagery that they chose. But that's enough from me. I'm going to pass the microphone to Harriet in just a moment. And I'd like to invite the winners onto the stage to say a little about themselves and their films and how they intend to communicate their core messages. So please, okay, so please give a big hand to, firstly, Praveen Singh and Vikram Mishra for their film The Final Tide. And also at the same time, if we could have please Arjun Pandey for his film India's Climate Fever.
Hello everyone. So I've been asked to ask the filmmakers, the winners, to give you sum up what their film will be about. I hope you were at Amanda Tennyson's workshop this afternoon, where Amanda said the most important thing about your film is a story, and you should be able to describe your film in 2 lines. So this is your opportunity to summarise your film in 2 lines, to tell the audience what it's about. So firstly, Praveen and Vikram.
It was basically Vikram's idea, and I just sat with him and we sorted out the proposal. And our film is basically going to give a broader picture of the impacts in India, and it's a film on what the impact of climate change is going to be on coastal communities. And for that, we picked up a variety of diverse people, diverse conditions. We're going to focus on Bombay as the economic hub of the country, on Goa, which is the tourism capital, you could say, and a fishing community in Kerala. So it's going to give a bigger picture of climate change and not focus on just one side. And because 7 million people, it's expected, are going to be directly affected by climate change, so that's what we wanted to focus on. I don't know if I passed the 2-line test.
And to another member of the Pandey dynasty, to Arjun for your film. Thanks very much. Can you describe your film?
My film, India's Climate Fever, looks at how climate change is affecting human health in India, and the effects can already be seen. It's not a distant issue, it's not something that will come up, it's not something that's been conjured up. Re-emergence of vectors like dengue, chikungunya, all these things are happening, they are a reality. The film not only looks at the problems, but also some of the solutions. India as a country has the means to fight this, and all it needs to do is spread the message, awareness amongst the people, and also scale up the means of coping with this. So that's my film.
Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing your film coming into our screen as well.
Right, Harriet. Okay, now it's my pleasure to announce the other 2 winners. The British Council's work in climate change is very much aligned with what the British High Commission and DFID team are working on as well. Our particular focus is on encouraging mitigation of climate change in an urban environment, and to do that we work with different specialist groups, including the media, hence our work with filmmakers, with Wildscreen and UKEFF, also with journalists. We work with low carbon scientists, we work with green buildings people, and we also work with young people, raising their awareness and making them feel that it's also their responsibility to do something about the issue. Very pleased now to announce the winners.